Good evening and welcome. A diplomatic storm is brewing between Paris and Washington, and it involves the United States Ambassador to France, Charles Kushner. The French government has taken the unprecedented step of effectively barring the ambassador from meeting with any French ministers. Today, we're going to break down exactly what happened, why France is so angry, and then shift our focus to a simple legal question. From the perspective of the French law and international protocol, why was his behavior considered unacceptable? Let's start with the facts. The trigger for this dispute was a tragic event in France, the killing of a 23-year-old far-right activist, Quentin Durand, who was beaten to death in a fight with alleged far-left activists. The day after the incident, the U.S. Embassy in Paris, presumably following guidance from Washington, reposted a statement from the State Department's Counterterrorism Bureau. The post commented on the killing, warning against what it called violent radical leftism in France. This was seen by the French government as direct interference in its internal affairs. The French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël immediately summoned Ambassador Kushner to the Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs to explain these remarks. In diplomatic terms, being summoned to the Foreign Ministry is a serious matter. It's an official request for an explanation. But here's where it escalated. Ambassador Kushner did not attend. Instead, he sent a senior officer from the embassy in his place, citing personal commitments. For France, this was a bridge too far. It wasn't just the original U.S. statement they were angry about, it was the perceived disrespect of snubbing an official summons. As a result, the French Foreign Ministry announced that Ambassador Kushner is no longer allowed direct access to members of the French government. He can still perform some diplomatic duties and talk to civil servants, but the doors of the ministers are now closed to him. Foreign Minister Barrot described with no show as a surprise that flies in the face of diplomatic protocol, adding that the ambassador's ability to do his job has now been damaged. So, from a legal standpoint, why was the ambassador's behavior so problematic? Let's look at this through the lens of French law and the rules governing diplomats. First, we have to look at the concept of non-interference. This is a cornerstone of international law and French legal sovereignty. The principle is enshrined in the United Nations Charter, but it's also a fundamental part of how France interprets its own laws regarding state sovereignty. When the U.S. Embassy commented on a domestic political killing and specifically warned against a domestic political movement, it was perceived as a violation of this principle. Under the French mindset, this isn't just bad manners, it's a breach of the respect for France's internal governance. Second, let's look at the summons itself. In France, a formal summons by the Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs isn't a suggestion. While the ambassador has diplomatic immunity, the act of being summoned is a critical part of maintaining diplomatic relations. By refusing to appear, Ambassador Kushner violated a core element of diplomatic protocol, which in France is treated with the gravity of a legal and administrative obligation. He failed to respect the institutional process. Third, and most specifically, there is a legal concept in the French Penal Code regarding offenses against the state. While it usually applies to individuals, the spirit of the law is clear. Article 431-1 of the French Penal Code, for example, deals with obstructing the exercise of public authority by refusing to meet with the minister when formally requested. A minister who is the embodiment of the state's foreign policy, the ambassador was, in effect, obstructing the normal function of the French government. And finally, the issue of honor. In the French Foreign Ministry's statement, they specifically mentioned the ambassador's failure to grasp the honor of representing one's country. This ties into the 1961 Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, which both France and the US follow. While the convention doesn't have a specific line about honor, Article 3 states that the function of a diplomat is to protect the interests of their home state and to promote friendly relations between the two states. By refusing the meeting, the ambassador failed in his duty to promote friendly relations. He prioritized the personal scheduling conflict over the machinery of the state. In short, the ambassador broke a series of unwritten and written rules. He interfered in domestic affairs, which is a breach of sovereignty. He refused a formal state summons, which is a breach of administrative protocol. And he failed to maintain the respect required between nations, which is a breach of the diplomatic code that governs all international relations. For France, this wasn't just about one missed meeting. It was a fundamental failure to respect the legal and political processes of the host country. that is the situation as it stands. The U.S. Embassy has yet to comment, and it remains to be seen whether an explanation will be offered that can repair their diplomatic rift. Thank you for watching. Stay informed.